Welcome to the Stockout. I am one of your hosts, Mike Baudendistel, joined by Grace Sharkey. And Grace, the Stockout might be exactly what we have if Apollo's expectation comes to fruition. What can you tell us about what they just posted?
Yeah, so interesting enough, yeah, quite literally, if we want to pull up that chart, started off with maybe some not so positive news for maybe well they we had interesting summer nicknames, right? And this summer might be recession summer. Per this actual image here. So if we can pull that up quickly, yeah, they came out, of course, kind of showcasing what we've seen and talked about on this show the last couple of weeks, being at the end of April, beginning of May, about 20 to 40-day container ship transit times. We're sitting right there. If things keep going the way that they are, and the administration keeps making the decisions that they seem to be making with full confidence, then likely we'll see as end of May comes around, trucking demand begins to come to a halt, which would lead to what we all experienced in COVID: empty shelves, companies, of course, responding to lower sales. But what's sad about that is, unlike COVID, it's not going to be propelled up by any type of extra checks or, of course, PPP loans to keep the economy moving, which likely could lead to a recession as early as this summer. So, yeah, it's a recession summer, baby. It's 2025, and it's looking like we're heading right towards it. And of course, you can check this out by Apollo as well. But this gives, I think, for our audience who keeps looking into what's going to be happening next, what they can forecast into. It doesn't seem like a very healthy forecast as well, if, in this regard. So, yeah, starting the Monday off with a positive note, Mike. I love it.
So, is a recession summer and a hot girl summer, are those mutually exclusive, or can people have both?
You know, I guess you probably are buying more clothes, so potentially you could make it a hot girl summer if you get creative about it. But I'm thinking this is going to be probably a mild girl summer. Put some quarters in your piggy bank, girl summer, from my perspective.
Yeah, so one person who's been following this closely on FreightWaves.com has been Stuart Churls. And I try to think of a segue. Speaking of hot girl summer, Stuart Churls is writing about containers. Uh, so he has an article up on the site talking about how some of the expectations from Drury. So Drury is the big analytics firm that follows global container volume closely. Said that they expect global container volume to decline by 1% in 2025. But that actually seems not conservative enough. They say the only other times we've actually seen this since 1979 was in 2009, where it was down 8.4%. I remember how bad freight volumes were then. I mean, you saw at certain times of the year rail volumes down 25%. And then 2020 down, also down about 1% in 2020. So that seemed to be perhaps where Drury was basing their expectations on. But you look at some of these numbers from various companies, including Sonar, including like the carriers, including some other analytics firms that show what's happening with ocean bookings, and they're pretty dramatic. So this is the ocean booking volume index from the Container Atlas app inside of Sonar, and you see that sort of down and to the right. Ours is showing down about 40% year over year. That's not too different from what this is from China to the U.S. specifically, so not too different from what like the Evergreen Marine is saying, where they're saying Trans-Pacific capacity is down. The capacity is down 30 or 40%, with their volume down 60 or 70%. So Hapag Lloyd is saying that Trans-Pacific trade down about 30%. Vision is saying that U.S. import bookings down 22% year over year for all of U.S. imports, but for China, the U.S. specifically, down 44% year over year. So they're pretty consistent with what we have now. So we're kind of in line with, let's say, the average decline in ocean bookings. And then this other Sonar chart is really interesting. This ocean TEU rejection index, which actually got an email from a customer earlier today saying, "Okay, is this data right?" And my response is, well, it was pretty in line with other data sources when you sort of do checks. Flexport, which is not the supplier, it's a different company that's the vendor of the data, but Flexport does a nice blog on their site, and they're saying that the blank sailings in the late April and early May, more than 25% decline. So our rejection index shooting up to 25% seems pretty reasonable. They're saying that most summer goods are going to already be either in warehouses or on the shelves, so they're not concerned about the summer goods. But once you get past the summer, inventory for back to school, holidays is at risk. We could see stockouts, and have plenty of stockouts to talk about on the Stockout.
Yeah, and something I think we'll have some more time to talk about next week, as well as there are some interesting reports for what even potentially Christmas could look like, with a number of toy sellers trying to rearrange and rethink their supply chains for this year as well. So, yes, I know it's not even Christmas in July yet, but we might have a Christmas in May episode coming next week that goes into that as well. But of course, I think going into this, we had a wonderful, at least Mike was out and working his tail off. I'll tell you that. Shout out to Blythe Brumley, who sent me a video of my co-host killing it this past week over in Jacksonville as well. So shout out to you, Mike, for that one. But I got a chance to actually interview one of my favorite people in this industry, who recently took a new role at Vice President of Dedicated Final Mile Sales over at Werner Enterprises. We got a chance to sit down and talk to her, especially about that white glove service and this final mile service in particular. What goes into those types of services in particular, and why someone like Werner is investing in that segment of the industry more and more every year. So for the rest of this episode, you're going to get a wonderful interview with me and Meg. And of course, afterwards, make sure you join our Stockout newsletter as well. Until then, we'll see you next Monday. And welcome back, Stockout fans. We've got an exclusive interview today with our good friends at Werner Enterprises, and actually a good friend of mine as well, who I've gotten to know very well in this industry. Talk about some strong female leadership in the industry. Let's start off with a nice introduction, Meg. Tell us about your role now here at Werner, and especially in the final miles aspect of things as well.
Yeah, hi Grace. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. My name is Meg Meurer, and as Grace mentioned, certainly go back quite some time together. But yeah, really happy to be here. So I serve as our Vice President of Dedicated and Final Mile Sales here at Werner. So oversee those commercial organizations and our go-to-market strategy for both the Dedicated and Final Mile segment here.
Love it. And a final mile is tough in this a particular industry. I'm sure even during these times, very difficult as well. And for our audience, we'll dive into, of course, a lot of the problem solving that Werner is doing, and just really what you should be looking for in a final mile producer as well. And let's dive into that specifically, especially the good old, one of my favorites when booking a shipment, good old white glove services, right? A lot of this going above and beyond the normal type of shipment. Can you tell us about a little bit more of that offering and the typical industries that you hear asking for more of these services every day?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So as we think about white glove, usually we're talking about specialized services. So Warner, we focus a lot on kind of ancillary services. So think installation, assembly, disassembly, a lot of that work that we're either training our teams on or coordinating behind the scenes with third party as well.
Yeah, it's very specialized, right? I mean, it's what's I love about white glove is it's a lot of the people within this industry, they want to move the freight, but boy, do they not want to touch it, right?
Yeah.
And white glove is quite literally that, right? Getting a little bit more riskier, which means you want to make sure you're choosing the right partner and that they understand the delicacies, I think, that come with white glove service as well, and the extra service I think that people are paying for that goes with that too.
Sure.
Of course, we see that I think in the commercial and residential side too. I'm interested in how building out this type of program. Do the drivers that use, a final mile in particular, what's that training like to make sure that extra specialized service is there and that Werner is really hitting that out of the park?
Yeah, absolutely. So our drive teams are using pretty expansive checklists to go through their process, not just Warner developed, but also some procedures and processes that come from our customer base as well.
Yeah.
But it's great. I actually visited, we have a local operation here in St. Louis that I went and visited a few weeks ago. And we do a lot of role playing as well. So the drive teams are actually going in with our training organization and they're working through different customer experiences and live role playing. So that's incorporated into the onboarding and training elements of our drive teams, as well as just live training, right? So we're doing a lot of ride alongs so we can help coach in real time too.
It's interesting you got to see that play out as well. Was any like scenarios that maybe you didn't even realize were a part of this, or that you found interesting kind of watching over that? Because I think for a lot of people, they might not know the intricacies that come with white glove services.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by not just our internal processes and procedures, but really how our customers are connecting with the end consumer. So, we service a lot of different verticals in Final Mile. So, we're really heavy in big and bulky furniture. We do a lot in the appliance space. Certainly, healthcare, as you think about medical machines, automotive, that's a really big sector for us, right? So we're doing back of store deliveries, overnight, unattended services. So there's a lot of white glove elements to that. So to answer your question, it could be something as simple as understanding workflow processes for the actual driver, right? What door to go into, what are the codes that they need to utilize. But where I was really impressed are the ways in which our customers are connecting with the end consumer by some of the information gathering that they're actually asking up front. So it could be silly little things, but they actually matter for our drive teams, like, hey, beware of the dog, right? You're going into
totally.
a consumer's home. What are some of the little, oddities that you're thinking of? But then also, one that came up just recently was that we were delivering to a consumer who was hearing impaired. Well, our customer had actually captured that information as part of the process and was able to pass that along to us. And we shared that with the driver, right? And so that really changes the experience of how they're interacting with the end consumer, because at the end of the day, we're really an extension of our customer's brand, right? We're typically uniformed, we're wearing the logo, and we're walking in on your behalf. And so it's been really interesting to see how our customers really differentiate themselves within their own verticals as well.
I'm really happy that you brought up that point, because we've always talked about over the last couple of years, and I think COVID really expedited this, but the shipping process has gone much more for these brands from just like part of the process of buying something to, honestly, I think sometimes now the selling point, right?
Sure.
You see that in like packaging. I can tell you when I'm a good consumer over here. I like to purchase a lot of things, but whenever I get something, it's the experience. What's the packaging like? What's the box like? But also a part of that too is, especially imagine getting a new stove, or someone like myself, right? I can't lift anything. What's that? When that driver comes, are they polite? Are they nice? Are they offering, to help with installation? What is that involved? And I think that more and more consumers are saying, well, that's what's going to make me buy again from you in the future. And so it's interesting that you bring that up, because you often think about just on timeliness as part of the service of that, but you don't think about just the human interaction, I think, that goes into it, right?
Yeah, and I would say overall, Warner, right, very known for being a very sound organization operationally, right? We have a 96% retention rate for our customers. So, but when you dive into the CX elements, it's really important that, obviously we bring breadth and depth in terms of being a $3.5 billion company. But with that, just making sure that we're nimble and agile, and we can operate the Final Mile division as a boutique operation to whatever those customer needs might be, to make sure that the relationship with the customer is scalable for our customer as well, right? It feels the same from location to location. They want very consistent customer experience across the board. That's really important for most of the customers that we work with. They want to make sure that whether we're delivering in the Northeast or in Texas or wherever we're at, it's the exact same customer experience across the board.
Yeah, it's a big company, almost small town feel though, along with it. And that goes, I think, if ever I see a company like that, I think immediately goes into the training of those employees. So
Sure.
it makes sense that you were happy with what you saw during that too. Now, the fun thing about white glove, though, is sometimes the shipments are right? Sometimes we have to return them. Sometimes there's issues with tracking. Can you tell us about how Werner works those wonderful everyday occurrences into the final mile training and segment as well?
Yeah, I mean, returns really vary, right, customer by customer, but I would say it kind of ties into our tech stack and how we operate. I would say about half of our customers were utilizing their technology, right? So we're following their process and procedures for returns and making sure that the product is delivered at the right time, in the right location, and following their procedures. Other customers we have utilizing our technology for that same process, but yeah, certainly an important part of final mile in particular, because quality and compliance around quality is very important to the end customer.
Well, and I had some really great discussions with your team recently, and this was part of those questions as well. And I'd love to hear from your point of view, just with your time in this industry, and of course your new experience at Werner too. Uh, with Final Mile, or with more of Werner's services, right, comes that the bundling of all the other wonderful services that come with Werner too. Can you tell us about the benefits, and maybe for those who aren't totally familiar, what that range of services includes?
Yeah, absolutely. So multimodal offerings. So we do a lot of work on the brokerage side of the business or the asset light side. Intermodal, over the road, final mile, and dedicated is a large part of our operation. So on the final mile side, we have a lot of customers that will cross over multimodal solutions where we might do final mile, but we might also service first and middle mile for them as well. So have that ability to scale with customers depending on what their needs are.
Well, and it's so funny because my favorite part, I always tell people when they're like, maybe they open up a logistics service or of some kind, and they're always, asking me, well, what should I be worried about when uh, in this business? And
Mhm.
my favorite part about
Where do we
this,
start?
yeah, exactly. Where do we start? But I
Yeah,
think one of my favorite things in this, to that point, is that when you do a good job, you have to get ready to scale because you've made the end consumer happy, you've made your customer happy, which means that consumer is probably buying more, which means your customer has more freight, which means
sure.
again, and on top of that, it depends on that customer and what the products they expand into, right? If
Right.
it's furniture, for example, and they say, okay, now we're going to do wholesale, now need full truckload, can they rely on their provider to do both the final mile white glove segment, also full truckload as well, and help even with those moves? Where can you help me, and where can you get a full view of this? I think is really key to finding that right partner, and even
Yeah.
more so. I'd love to hear your thoughts just on having a touch of those more bundled services. You also, I feel like, can provide some real expertise and guidance to those shippers too, because as a provider now, right, you have a full idea of how their supply chain works compared to just this one small segment.
Sure. No, I think it's a fair point. What I would say is that as far as an expectation from a shipper, if you're utilizing a carrier that has, scale and size and the sophistication of a Warner, you're really making sure that Warner's providing best practices, right?
Yeah.
So we should be subject matter experts in multi modes and be able to offer best practices to multiple shippers on how their competitors are doing business in this space as well, which hopefully, gives them competitive advantages,
Yeah.
along the way.
Well, speaking of advantages, it's I think for Warner, this market would seem to me to be an interesting one to maneuver through, right? And I'm interested in what shippers are looking for. Do you feel like they're asking for more dedicated services, and in particular, trying to get advice how to work through the truckload market like it is today? What have you been hearing from shippers on your end?
Yeah, well, the volatility, right? Supply
Yeah,
chain in general, it's been, I think we were just talking, it's evolving by the hour, right? So
yeah,
stability matters. And I think at the end of the day, so for us, our dedicated pipeline is incredibly strong right now. I think a lot of shippers are wanting to stabilize and make sure that with all of the volatility going on in the market, can they count on the product getting to the curb in a strong customer experience? And so for us, that's creating some really interesting and unique conversations.
Yeah, it's I've never had so many shippers reach out to even me and ask for their thought. And what's tough is you almost have to be in this type of environment just agile, right? It's
Sure.
almost like
Yeah.
not knowing what's behind the corner, but being prepared to rebound in that situation, or take a pivot in a different direction. And
Yeah.
would you say in a dedicated service offering that's easier to do as a provider compared to working with multiple different specialized logistics groups just to pull off the full job?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're working with a carrier of scale, that you have the ability to have centralized points of contact, right, and more control over that experience, certainly compared to working with 50 different providers, right? So we're noticing a lot of centralized, operations now. So shippers that are paying attention to, hey, we might have previously run in a decentralized model. Does it make more sense for us to centralize procurement at large? And how does that impact the transportation arm of our operation?
It's awesome. And
Yeah.
you know me, I'm a freight tech girl. That's how we originally met,
Yeah.
was my love for the good old technology side. And I know
Yeah.
Werner's busy over there, so I'd love for some insight on how the technology stack is working out, and where you're seeing improvements with the company, and also the final mile services as well.
Yeah, I think if we zoom out, I've been really impressed with Warner, cloud-based across the board, right? So as you think about our tech stack, really robust roadmap, but even where we're currently at, related to our Edge TMS, we're a Workday company, we're a Salesforce company, so we're a cloud-based operation at scale, which provides a lot of lift and benefit, certainly for our customers. But as it pertains to final mile specifically, you talk about tracking and real-time visibility and proactive calls to the customer. Again, we're nimble and agile, and we can utilize our customers' technology, but we also have all of that in-house to provide to maybe SMB that need that type of lift, and we can offer that as well.
So, Mike, what I find unique about Werner as well is that as a provider, you do have an excellent footprint across the US. And I think that's a big part of this conversation, too. Can you maybe touch on how that helps with the final mile services?
Yeah, you bet. So we have a few hundred assets that are running every single day, and we have a great footprint up and down the I-95. So often customers come to us that they might need warehouse space, for instance. So we have a decent number of commingled facilities all up and down the I-95, all the way, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, over to Kentucky, Georgia, and Florida. So we have a lot of warehouse operation space available for our customers as well. We also do a lot of work in Texas, all over the state of Texas. But we've been looking at really unique opportunities recently too. So we just started a fleet in New Mexico, right? So
Yeah.
maybe a little bit off the beaten path, but as it pertains to warehouse space, a large asset-based commingled footprint up and down the I-95.
I love that term commingle. That it works well with it. And
Yeah.
again, I think that's for all those that are doing final mile type of freight. I mean, that's very important, especially the best part about logistics, right, Meg, is that it's all problem solving. A problem will happen, right? Where these situations will occur where maybe it needs to be stored somewhere for a little bit, or a number of different things can happen, right? So I think
Right.
it's a huge advantage working with Werner in that regard too.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great recovery options, and just overall density in that pocket. So.
That's incredible. And I'm excited to see you in this role, leading this segment. And I think, again, a busy one to say the least as well. Meg, if people want to learn more about what Werner's working on in this final mile area, where's the best place for them to go? And if they want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, our website or LinkedIn would be great. And just a final shout out to the drivers, right, Grace? I mean, we talk
Yes.
about this a lot, but
Yeah.
certainly in the final mile side in particular, we celebrate them every Friday. So we have Final Mile Fridays, and it's a hard freaking job, right? And
Yeah.
they're early mornings hauling heavy, big and bulky items, and just really proud of the work that the drive teams are doing for the organization. So, but yes, Werner website, online or LinkedIn, either way.
Thank you so much, Megan. For our Stockout audience, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you head to freightwaves.com, click on newsletters at the top of the page, join the Stockout as well. And until then, we'll be back next week with, I don't know, maybe some just crazy news. Who knows at this point? I would take it week by week over here. But thank you for watching, and we'll talk with you all soon.